Hello everyone, I am Julian Morris with the Channel 5 News. In the headlines, Parliament to enact bail legislation for the first time next week. Cabinet to take up amendments to the tax laws to implement tax concessions for the benefit of the tourism and manufacturing sectors. And Cabinet approves disaster resilience strategy as a component of the climate resilience and recovery plan. The details of the news coming up.
We are strong, we are resilient, and we will get through this together. But these are stressful times, and it's important to also practice good self-care. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid, but there is hope. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, stay in touch with your community, and know that you are not alone. We're in this together. This is a public service announcement from the Dominica Red Cross.
Flow helps you stay connected to what matters. Simple plans and a better network mean that you can enjoy 7 days of unlimited social messaging, 3 gigabytes of reliable data to use as you like, 700 local anywhere calls and texts with the always-on prepaid plan, all for $29. Keep your number when you switch to Dominica's most reliable LTE network. Buy wherever you top up. Switch to Flow. It only gets better.
First up in the news, Parliament to enact bail legislation for the first time ever when it meets next week. Minister for National Security Reuben Blackmore explained the need for such legislation when he met with the media on Wednesday.
There's no enacted piece of legislation dealing with the granting or denying of bail. So the court therefore relies largely on established guidelines and common law. And what this bill seeks to do is to create actually a piece of legislation enacted in Parliament that provides conditions under which bail can be considered. It doesn't mean that bail will be denied, but it also establishes conditions under which that, unless it's absolutely necessary, that bail should not be granted in certain serious crimes. We all know, as you have heard before, that cases like murder, serious murders, offenses against young persons, sexual offenses, and the use of illegal firearms to commit serious crimes, etc. And you have heard of cases where persons were granted bail for murder, and while on bail, committed a second offense. So that bail will actually curtail that.
Blackmore says government recognizes the need for Dominicans to seek and receive bail, and this legislation is not to curtail that. But he says there must be some measure of consistency in granting bail as far as possible.
There is no issue of the interest of the individual to remain at liberty unless or until he is convicted of a crime sufficiently serious to justify the depriving of his liberty. But the community has a countervailing interest in seeking to ensure that the cost of justice is in no way undermined by the flight of the suspect or perverted by his interference with witnesses or evidence, and that he or she does not take advantage while on bail to further commit offenses.
The new legislation means it will now be much tougher for one to be awarded bail, particularly in cases where serious offenses are concerned.
It will make it more difficult, and unless the court has good reasons, what this bill is proposing, that if you're convicted, if you're charged for one murder, kidnapping, terrorism, rape, especially if a minor, that a bail ought not to be granted.
Tourism and manufacturing to benefit from tax concessions approved by Cabinet on Tuesday. When Parliament meets next week Wednesday, government will seek approval for the amendments to facilitate the permanent implementation of the exemption of import duties and excise tax. Similar to the concessions enjoyed by farmers, these tax relief measures will apply to vehicles imported for transportation of visitors and for small businesses. The Prime Minister announced in this year's budget address that VAT and import duty would be removed on packaging and labeling materials as well as on equipment and machinery to improve competitiveness of locally manufactured goods.
Also included in the VAT amendment is the exemption of VAT on the import of pleasure crafts and excursion boats measuring at least 45 cubic meters along with the engines. All of these measures are expected to directly benefit two of our productive sectors, namely tourism and manufacturing. These measures were decided following consultation with the stakeholders. As a government, we are happy that we are able to bring some relief to support particularly the micro and small businesses. We are aware that many of them have been waiting on this. We hope these measures will put into good use and that many will take the opportunity to expand their businesses and create new ones. Let us continue to play our part in building a dynamic, resilient Dominica.
A local author is hoping to transform the way Dominican children learn their ABCs while teaching them about their culture. Here is Andrea Louis with more.
Nadej Roach, a teacher by profession, says she was inspired to create the Culture Kids Coloring and Activities book to help Dominican youth have a more localized understanding of basic academic material.
The Culture Kids Coloring and Activity book is something I was doing privately for my son because I just got fed up of the Eurocentric vibes of A for apple, E for elephant, G for giraffe. And I started doing little drawings for him, you know, G for goat, A for agouti, that kind of thing. And somebody saw it and said, you know, that would be such a good idea if you put it out on the market. But that stayed in my head for a little while. Eventually, I got to speak to my artist, who is Janie Bell, and told her my ideas, told her what I wanted it to look like in the end, you know, gave her little sketches, and Culture Kids Coloring and Activity book was born.
Roach says the response from the public has been very encouraging, and she hopes to get good feedback from the Ministry of Education to have this book introduced to schools.
Dominicans have been flocking to it. They've been saying how much of a great project it is. A lot of parents bought it expecting it to be just a coloring book, but when they, you know, bought their copies, they realized that there were activities like fill in the blanks, marching, unscrambled words, trivia questions about certain areas in our country. The hope is to have it on the school's book list by next school year, hopefully. So plans are being made to meet with them and present the project as a school supply or a school book eventually.
The local author has plans to roll out similar publications for OECS countries.
The plan is to make Culture Kids huge. This is the first of 5 books that I intend to do for Dominica. And I'm saying 5 because the 4 others have already begun working on the ideas and what I want them to be. So you'll just have to wait to see what these will be. But I assure you that they're awesome. They're going to be really awesome. The plan is not to remain only in Dominica. I plan on doing one for every OECS island. You know, if it was such a good idea for Dominica, I think the other children in the other Caribbean islands deserve to learn their ABCs by learning their country and their culture.
The Culture Kids Coloring and Activity book targets individuals aged 5 and up. Andrea Louis, Channel 5 News.
Cabinet has taken concrete steps to realize budget promises by the Prime Minister to develop fiscal rules that would allow the country to better withstand economic shocks. In his 2020-2021 National Budget Address, the Prime Minister pledged to finalize a draft procurement bill for publication. The Prime Minister promised that government would also publish the debt portfolio review. Cabinet has made significant progress in advancing these measures, which are critical to the development of a dynamic, economic, resilient Dominica. So far, Cabinet has, among other things, approved the development of a fiscal rules and responsibilities framework, which will establish parameters that allow government to build fiscal resilience.
From October 2020 we have been making contributions to the Government Vulnerability Risk and Resilience Fund at the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank in the amount of $500,000 per month. 2. Cabinet approved the publication of a draft Public Procurement and Disposal Public Property Bill. The bill will be made available to the general public by December 16th for review and feedback. 3. Debt portfolio review will be laid in Parliament next Wednesday, December 16, 2020. These efforts are to speak to this government's continued commitment to fiscal prudence and to ensuring that the country of Dominica can withstand economic shocks and natural disasters. Your government will continue its effort at ensuring the sustainable development of Dominica. We recognize the events such as natural disasters, the impact of global crisis, and the likes will continue to occur. We have no control over these. What we must continue to do is prepare for the inevitable by building resilience in our system, including public finance management. These will result in a prosperous Dominica that all of us and our children and grandchildren can enjoy.
You're watching Channel 5 News. Coming up, able-bodied men and women encouraged to join the police force.
A new in-home experience is here. All your services bundled into one simple plan. Faster, more reliable Wi-Fi so that you can binge, play, and stream uninterrupted. Unlimited flow local landline minutes mean you can talk and talk and talk. Plus the best in TV entertainment with over 120 channels and 29 in HD, all for $160 a month with the new all-in bundle. With Flow, it only gets better.
We are strong, we are resilient, and we will get through this together. But these are stressful times, and it's important to also practice good self-care. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid. But there is hope. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, stay in touch with your community, and know that you are not alone. We're in this together. This is a public service announcement from the Dominica Red Cross.
Dominicans being encouraged to join the police force as it continues to grow in number. In 2018, government increased the establishment of the police force from 501 to 600. Acting Police Chief Lincoln Corbett says training of a new cohort of officers should get underway soon.
The government of Dominica is committed to filling the vacancies in the force, and the process of recruitment is ongoing. And to date, we have processed a number of individuals who have applied. It is expected that a new cohort of officers, as indicated by the Minister, will soon commence, of 50 officers, 50 people, inclusive of women. We're actually looking at training not less than 15 women. And again, we urge and we encourage those persons who are interested in joining the police force to do so. The process is ongoing, and we really need officers or young people to join the force.
While a number of projects regarding accommodation and work environment for officers have been completed, other projects are still ongoing.
The government also continues to place a lot of emphasis on accommodation and on the working environment of police officers. And in that regard, we've seen a number of projects completed, just to name a few. The roof at the marine facility, Coast Guard base, was rehabilitated recently. The boathouse was built, a new boathouse was built. The barracks at the SSU compound, 3 barracks were built and repaired. We also recently did the roof at the Saliba police station. Again, I say just to name a few. Ongoing projects. Right now, we have the officers and the inspector office at Monbruce, SSU. We also have officers' quarters at the SSU, the storeroom at the SSU, the dialysis and the Cancellation police station, and the fencing of the Margaret police station.
Cabinet has approved the disaster resilience strategy as an addition to the climate resilience and recovery plan. Minister of Health, Dr. The Honorable Irving McIntyre, says government is committed to implementing the strategy and a number of the recommendations are already being implemented. He says the NDRS and the CRRP will guide Dominica's efforts at becoming the first climate-resilient country in the world.
A DRS was developed for Dominica in February 2020 with the assistance of the IMF. It is premised on 3 pillars. Pillar 1, structural resilience. Pillar 2, financial resilience. Pillar 3, post-disaster resilience. The DRS took into consideration progress that was made in structural resilience and proposed that we continue with the following core investments. Road network, that is revision of road standards, planning road network, mapping and vulnerability assessment, realignment of existing roads to minimize flooding and land slippage, improvement of slope stabilization, sufficient drainage along and through the roads, air transport and connectivity, looking at alternative options to existing airports towards larger airplanes used to deploy food and medicine supplies and relief structures for shelters. Seaport, improvement in seaport capacity to provide additional and more resilient structures for uploading and storage. That is, river dredging and reinforcement of riverbanks and hillsides to mitigate flooding risk. Energy, investment in renewable energy through investment in large geothermal plants and mini-grids for isolated communities.
The DRS also proposed investment in continued upgrade of medical services with the construction of new hospitals and medical centers, among other areas.
Housing, continued investment in resilient housing. Zoning and land use, revision and application of the National Land Use Policy. Water and sanitation, implementation of DOWASCO's Strategic Development Plan for the water sector. Insurance, the plan is to implement a comprehensive insurance strategy with a layering framework for small and medium disasters, large disasters, and extreme disasters. Government Self-Insurance Fund. This proposal assumes the establishment of a Vulnerability and Resiliency Fund, VRF, with government savings, which we have already started. Strengthening of private insurance to include low-income households. These options propose insurance arrangements for low-income, vulnerable households who were seriously challenged in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria and for which government had to provide support for housing rehabilitation. For post-disaster and social resilience, the 4 main propositions as follows: food security, effective disaster response and recovery, national action plan for risk reduction, and social data capture and improvement of social safety nets.
Following Hurricane Maria, the IMF and other development partners committed to help Dominica prepare a disaster resilience strategy, DRS. The purpose of the DRS is to provide a comprehensive plan that includes the policies, cost and financing for natural disaster resilience. The cost of funding the interventions outlined in the disaster resilience strategy is $2.8 billion US or 8 billion EC dollars. And as comments continue to come in from Carnival stakeholders, President of Cluebird says the cancellation of Mass Dominic 2021 comes as no surprise. Andrea Louis tells us more.
The Inland Revenue Sports Club, or Cluebird as it is commonly known, was formed in 1997 and has been creating t-shirt bands for Mass Dominic celebrations on a regular basis. Club President Paul Charles says that though the band had been planning a t-shirt band for next year, the announcement of no carnival comes as no surprise.
We had already anticipated that because prior to that we had discussions with the DDA, and all prospects was looking at that they might never, well, not say never, but they wouldn't have any celebrations either for the Creole Festival, neither coming up for the Carnival celebrations. So we are already prepared for that.
Charles says the cancellation of Carnival does not affect them financially.
Oh yes, we are always in planning mode. As soon as the Carnival was over this year, we already was in planning mode. We had already written to our prospective sponsors and they had already given the assurances that they would be back on board again. So We already was in the mood for that. It doesn't actually have so much impact on us per se. We are a non-profit organization first and foremost, and most of our fundraising activity is mainly for when we, Dominica, the Inland Revenue, have to host members from within the Caribbean. So we use the fundraising for the Carnival and Creole Festival and other activities to help us get the funds necessary.
While the wider Dominican public has been expressing mixed views on the cancellation of Carnival next year, Charles believes people will truly feel the void of Carnival when the time comes around.
Carnival is a cultural experience, and I don't think the reality has been kicked in as yet. So after Christmas and persons come to the hardship of January and they want to free up for February, then it's going to really hit them.
Bluebird T-shirt band placed second in this year's Carnival Monday T-shirt band category.
Flow helps you stay connected to what matters. Simple plans and a better network mean that you can enjoy 7 days of unlimited social messaging, 3 gigabytes of reliable data to use as you like, 700 local anywhere calls and texts with the always-on prepaid plan, all for $29. Keep your number when you switch to Dominica's most reliable LTE network. Buy wherever you top up. Switch to Flow. It only gets better.
We are strong, we are resilient, and we will get through this together. But these are stressful times, and it's important to also practice good self-care. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid, but there is hope. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, stay in touch with your community, and know that you are not alone. We're in this together. This is a public service announcement from the Dominica Red Cross.
A new in-home experience is here. All your services bundled into one simple plan. Faster, more reliable Wi-Fi so that you can binge, play, and stream uninterrupted. Unlimited Flow local landline minutes mean you can talk and talk and talk. Plus the best in TV entertainment with over 120 channels and 29 in HD, all for $160 a month with the new all-in bundle. With Flow, it only gets better.
To end the news, the headlines again. Parliament to enact bill legislation for the first time next week. Cabinet to take up amendments to the tax laws to implement tax concessions for the benefit of the tourism and manufacturing sectors. And Cabinet approves disaster resilience strategy as a component of the climate resilience and recovery plan. You may access the news on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the production team, I am Julian Morris. Thanks for watching. Join us tomorrow.